All right, you clicked on the video because you want to know what is interesting about Hytale, what are some of the things that Hytale might not quite have yet, and should you buy the game and jump in today? First off, it is an early access game. It is a real early access game in that it is very obviously incomplete from having sections of the world that are actually marked as work in progress or from features that are not yet fully implemented and tooltips that are, still under development for things like magic. The world generation itself, even that is something that is very early in its iterations, and we already have previews in game of what the world generation version 2 is going to look like, which hopefully comes soon. But that sort of it gives you an indicator of how early we are in development. We have early indications that patches are going to be frequent. They may or may not cause issues with world generation if you try to use new features with a new build on an old save. So it might mean your saves are not going to be at the point where we're going to have eternal worlds like many people do have in Minecraft already. And lots of other things like that, which we need to think about if we're looking at paying money for a game. I'm a big advocate of you buy the game in the state it's in, not the game in the state the developers tell you it will be in, because who knows how things turn out in the end. For me, spoilers, I think the game is worth the money right now for what it is. It would give me a couple of weeks of fun. That value judgment might be different for you and what you want to get out of Hytale. So hopefully this video helps, take you through some of the features that are in the game, identify some of the features that are not in the game, and sort of give you an idea of where we're at in terms of how cool Hytale is and where it might not be ready for you yet. So let's have a look at some of these features. All right, so before we jump into the game, we have been absolutely blessed with a very rapid pace in hotfixes and updates in the few days since Hytale came out. Some of those updates, some of the bigger ones, are being sent to us as a uh, pre-release candidate version of the game that you can access from the launcher. So this is something you need to do before you start the game if you want to be playing with some of the newest updates and changes and fixes to the game. Now, please note that this is an unstable version of the game, so you're more likely to have glitches and bugs and it's not tested as much. So only do this if you're willing to sort of work through those potential issues with your worlds and stick to the stable standard release client that it defaults to if that's something that you're not super keen on participating in. But just understand that in order to get the newest stuff, you will have to deal with a less stable client, and that's sort of part of testing and early access. People that have played Project Zomboid probably well aware of that, but for those that are new to this idea, particularly in a game that feels like a very true early access experience, this might be new to you. So once you've got the launcher open, we click here and we can see here at the top, once you bring that down list, you have the option between what version of the game you want to play, whether you want to play the standard version or the more cutting edge, experimental stuff. We'll be doing the rest of this video using the experimental stuff because some of the changes that have been brought forward quite quickly are things that I'm fairly excited about. And frankly, if I put out a video of stuff in Hytale, by the time it gets up, chances are this might actually be rolled into the main client anyway. So that's what we'll be doing. Hit the bottom of a tree, get the whole tree. Fantastic. If you're playing on the experimental branch and you have a torch equipped in your offhand, when you're mining with a pickaxe, you can, thank goodness, simply left click to place it, just like in Minecraft, which is, after a few days of playing the game without that functionality being available, is absolutely fantastic, and it's going to help make mining a lot more fun. Or maybe not fun, but, straightforward. Oh, hello. What have we got here? Treasure. All right, so in Hytale, the livestock mechanics haven't really been fully implemented yet, so we can't give them wheat or anything. As far as I have been able to tell, there is no breeding mechanics in with the cows or the pigs or the chickens or anything like that. There's some basic chicken coops that we can do to get eggs out of chickens. Pigs, if there are any pigs around here, there have been some that have been hanging around. Likewise, there's no way to breed them necessarily. What's interesting is they do have a feed bag implemented. Oh, there's a pig there. Um, and while we do sort of get some of their attention sometime, they often still run away and they don't seem to necessarily be attracted to the feed bag. If we move this over here, for example, doesn't seem particularly interested. Uh, there's the parent pigs running around. Even if we go to the cows, they're not particularly interested in this either. There seems to have been a change potentially in the first release of the game. These cows would actually actively run from me, but that behavior seems to have changed. But yeah, look, deep mechanics or really basic mechanics for livestock haven't been implemented in this stage of the early access. So beware of that if you're hoping to have cow ranches and pig farms and chicken farms. Bit early on for that, although you can still put them in pens, I guess. All right, so if you've been checking out any other content about Hytale, you have likely come across the well-received mechanic where if you interact with a crafting bench, it will pull from nearby chests and let you craft with items that are not in your inventory as long as they're somewhere nearby. That has led to these clumps of crafting tables and chests. This is something to keep an eye out for, though, because happily enough, while the original release allowed anything within 6 blocks to be searched by a crafting table when you're crafting, that has been doubled to 12 blocks. So I'm going to have a chance to spread this out and make it look more like a natural workshop, which is very exciting. So these particular clusters of crafting and chests that are, a little bit hidden and hard to get to sometimes, not necessary anymore, and we can be a bit more creative with how we set things up. So I will have to update this pavilion, which is not quite finished yet, but it's still a good start. All right. One of the very interesting mechanics in the game is to find neat little places like this desert. The best thing to do is to head south where it is warmer. So there is approximation of climate in the game in that you go north to find the cold, you go south to find the heat, and that will impact what items you find. I found the desert has been a pretty good place for things like bug chinton, as well as ores that are more readily available in the hot deserts. So thorium, for example. Oh, is this it here? There we go. Thorium ore. Fantastic. We need that for a later little tip or cool thing that we're going to look at. So that's actually quite handy. I think I need like 4. So I'm going to just quickly finish that while you guys get onto the next item. All right. So the game rewards exploration, particularly on the overworld, and traveling to different climates to get the ores that you need. That can be some pretty long journeys, particularly if you're trying to avoid traveling at night, not because it's dangerous, but just because it's dark. The game has portals, which are fairly cheap, fairly easy, and they don't have any penalties. So it's very easy to connect yourself right back to your comfy, cozy base, which is something I quite enjoy. Very similar to the waystones that you get in a lot of Minecraft mods, and something that I appreciate having in a game that, so far feels like it's going to be more on the cozy side than the intense side. But we'll see how everything shakes out as we get further in development. But yeah, portals, a good goal to work towards. Not something that I would necessarily suggest people rush for because traveling by foot, you do find things, and particularly in your first few hours of the game, you'll come across lots of structures and just little touches in the game that add a fair bit of life to the world. So try not to miss out on that too much. Having said that, you've got to travel to the wherever you're going to place down a portal as well anyway. So I still need to go and find some place in the north to put a portal close to the cold ores like cobalt. So another really cool quality of life in the game is that we have these arrows to automatically take everything, place everything, or match stacks to put things away in chests, and as well as sort chests by various different tags. Well, actually, no, it's just by type. I thought I could change that, but I can't. But that's all right. That's fine for now. So it does mean that you can sort of go across to all your chests when you're trying to pack stuff away and just quickly tab through them. We haven't really organized these out properly yet, but it'll find any item that is similar or the same, I guess, to what is already in the chest and pull it out of your inventory ready to hopefully help you stay a little bit more organized and keep hitting sword there when it's done. So, yeah, handy. Nice little quality of life. All right, so when you start playing Hytale, one of the first things you'll want to do is to build the initial workers bench or workbench, I guess. Very easy to make, very basic ingredients. And once you place that down in the world, that is going to give you access to some basic tools and also a whole smorgasbord of other crafting tables. And you'll want one of all of these. They will essentially be your guideposts for how you progress through the game and start to get more effective tools and more dangerous weapons and more resilient armor, which helps a lot when you're exploring and starting to get a bit further away from the spawn point. Don't be like me and miss one of those. I completely faded on the armorer's workbench and was running around without any armor except for a couple of scraps I had found for far too long. But lucky, I have solved that problem and have my armorer's bench up and running. Over here, you'll see that benches generally do have different tiers that you can use to upgrade your available recipes. As you can see, these won't upgrade until I get to tier 3, and they will typically sort of be your clues on what you want to be looking for in the world next. Sometimes it's pretty obvious where you would go to find particular items like cobalt ore and thorium ore. The item descriptions will actually hint towards whether it's hot or cold environments. And then you'll get things like these scraps. Scraps of linen are the basic one, shadow weave. More difficult enemies, you just sort of start to need to go further away from spawn and find more aggressive enemies to be able to collect some of these items. Stuff like Void Heart, not sure yet. Haven't got that far, but I'm sure we'll come across it if we keep exploring. So if the name of the game is a clue, Minecraft, one of the first things that we like to do is we like to build a tunnel and get down and get diamonds and obsidian and all that cool stuff. Hytale, however, is not Minecraft. While it's got a lot of DNA similar to Minecraft, my experience has been that progression in the early game is best achieved through exploring the overworld. That's how you're going to collect resources, build out your initial crafting tables, and get yourself set up to face some more difficult challenges. So look around on the ground before you start digging into it. Not to say don't go poke into any caves and stuff, because that can be a good source of copper and iron early on, but you'll also find plenty of it on the mountains in the surface as well. All right, combat. An important part of combat is food. Food will restore a small portion of your health, and then depending on the quality of the food, pretty much how difficult it is to make, the more steps you take in crafting, generally the higher its effect is going to be in terms of stamina and health regeneration. But as you can see, this piece of meat is going to restore 5% of health, and it's only going to give me level 1 health and stamina regeneration. That health and stamina regeneration will last for a little bit, so we're going to nosh on this, and we're going to head to this dangerous, dilapidated manor or castle or whatever, and have a look at the combat. So the combat is pretty simple. We've got slash on left click, we've got block. The enemy can block 2, hooray. And once they've attacked us, we can go on for a swing. When we're blocking, we can do a knockback. And when we get a bunch of them on us, we're in trouble. We can hold for an attack, which will hit a bunch of them. And we can try and make sure we keep our guard up. Whoop. Luckily, we've got that meat. Our stamina's gone down, so we couldn't block there. Now it's back. Our block is back. And we can hopefully slowly wear through them a little bit. And slowly, but surely, get through. Now we've got our ultimate shine. We can hit Q and do a bunch of damage. And, oof, let's have a bit of a munch. Not going to give us much back, but better than nothing. Hello. You are an archer, so that's fine. So they're easy enemies. For the purpose of demonstration, I probably stuck around that large group a bit more than I would if I was being a bit more cautious. But yeah, their combat is decent. There's enough in there to suggest that with refinement, it'll be a bit more impactful and a bit more strategic. Where are you going? But for what it is now, it's fun. So for the builders, this game has a pretty generous palette of blocks in early access and is a fairly easy build experience. I'm not a builder per se, but even something as simple as being able to create specifically columns, including blocks for the top, which can be used on both the top and the bottom. You just need to flip them over. And also smooth stone pieces matched with stairs, just, pretty straightforward Minecraft techniques work really well and look very clean. We have specific wood blocks, which we, haven't finished pieces off there. Specific window blocks rather than glass planes at this point. I do hope we get glass planes. We have slabs that can be installed vertically, not just horizontally. And also we have even smaller blocks like beams, which can be used to add a bit of extra structure. Just like here, we've got beams internally to hang our lanterns from, and we can change the texture on the stones. So you can see down here, we've got a bit more detail versus plain blocks versus a bit of smooth stone to sort of help make the windows stand out a little bit more. To even things like furniture. So we've got these wall mounted shelves, and we can get like tables and candles and desks and obviously beds, which help us skip the night. Closets, which unfortunately are not usable. It'd be nice if we could put stuff in there. It'd be a nice place to leave armor and stuff. And yeah, like it's interesting. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with the building, and I'm not the best person to show it off. But like if a scrub like me can do something half decent, I think that your average person is going to do something really wonderful. So beds and sleeping. You can sleep in a bed. When you jump in a bed, it will give you an approximate time for when you can sleep to skip the night. In the current version I'm playing, because I'm playing the pre-release unstable version, they have changed it from 9 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., which is a change I am 100% excited to see, because being able to only sleep at 9 o'clock meant you'd spend several hours in the dark. And while the dark is not particularly more dangerous than the daytime, it is nice if you're like working on building projects and stuff, being able to skip the night and just build mostly in the daytime. So we'll see how 7:30 feels. I haven't played in this patch yet beyond what I've done for this video, but definitely a change I'm looking forward to, because I will be able to sleep earlier. And that's going to be great. I do kind of wish still, like even in Minecraft, I kind of like the idea of being able to, like, at any time jump in the bed and skip to the next morning, but hey. All right, so for those of you that have a green thumb, farming is in the game, and all you need to do is equip a hoe like this and right click to till the soil, and you'll be able to create some really cool farmland. So we're going to quickly do this. Let's make this a 20 by 20, not a 20 by 20, a 20 total, 4 by 5. That's what we're trying to say. And once we have somewhere for crops, we can come over to the farming vending, well, not vending table. I feel like I'm buying from here, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And we can find something like corn. We can grab 20 corn, grab 20 carrot. And then all we need to do is go back and plant these seeds. Now, you might be wondering, Sam, in Minecraft, you need water for farms. Otherwise, things don't grow. And in Hytale, that is not the case. So I have found that the growth times with unwatered farmland is fine because I'm not trying to generate as much as possible as quickly as possible. Having said that, you can speed up the growth of these crops. So you can craft a watering can. Over here, you'll note that I tried to make an infinite water source, and you cannot make an infinite water source. Like a bucket will draw that water down and it will run out of water quite quickly. Watering can doesn't appear to have that issue. And then we can hold right click and we can actually just water these crops. And that will speed up the process for how quickly they grow. That water ran out. Jeez. So maybe we're going to want to well a bit closer. I used to have my farmland over in that corner, but I decided I wanted to change things up a bit. So we're starting to plant some stuff over here at the moment, which is very exciting because it's going to be wonderful. This was my old farmland here. So obviously it would be, you know, easier overall to have your farmland next to water. And let's quickly do that now. All right, so we grab our bucket. If we go to what would otherwise be an infinite water source in Minecraft, and if we right click, you can see that's already taken that source and yeah, it doesn't refill. And actually, we can't actually fill a bucket from the non-source block, so we're going to grab that anyway. Now, if we're going to make a watered farmland, let's give us some space. It is a shame that punching dirt takes a bit longer than I'd like it to take, and the shovel will actually destroy multiple blocks and isn't quite a fine precision device. All right, let's put our water source in here, and that should irrigate that water for us. So let's grab some other seeds. All right, let's put 1, 2, 3 seeds. So we need another 7. So we go back to our farming table. Yeah, we'll buy 10 and we'll have 3 left over. So the reason that I'm buying seeds is that when you harvest crops once they're ready, they do not drop seeds. What they do is they drop essence of life. And essence of life can be used as a currency basically at the farming table to buy whatever seeds, saplings, anything like that you want. I'm going to be real. I'm not in love with that as a concept, but you know, it'll function, I guess. It'll function. But as you can see, things are slowly starting to grow. It's a shame we don't get a progress marker, but yeah, so farming in the game seems pretty decent. There seems to be a nice range of crops that even for decorative purposes would be nice to sort of leave in your front garden ready to look. There's a hole under here, so we've got cobblestone blocking it off to make sure I remember it's there, but I'm tempted to replace that with dirt and make this a nice little garden area. So all right, so that's probably a good place to leave our little exploration of, you know, the cool little details in Hytale that I've found to be really enjoyable in the couple of days that I've played it. I think the biggest takeaways are that this is an early access game in the 100% traditional sense of the word. It is not a soft launch of a game that is complete. It is a early access of a game that is still under heavy development. And you can tell because of the fact there have already been, you know, a range of hotfixes and also the pre-release of the next version of the game that included some changes to things like being able to put down torches while having a pickaxe equipped, having an earlier night cycle, and some other bits and pieces, which I won't spoil as well. There's a huge amount of stuff to explore in the biomes and the creatures and all sorts of cool things to find for yourself, which I've tried not to spoil some of those, the more, oh my God moments. I've tried to keep those out of the video so you guys can explore it for yourself. Otherwise, if you are interested in seeing those, you can find me streaming here or on Twitch. And as well, you can have a look on my channel. There's a few more long format videos of me playing the game, particularly early on. And, you know, if you're interested, check it out. If you're interested in retro games, check it out. And basically, yeah, If you've made it to this point in the video, consider a like and a subscribe, and let me know what you think down below. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I gotta play some more Hytale tonight after I get this video edited, and I think next up we might have some retro games. We'll see how we go.